In this study, I tried to explain wage inequality. More specifically, I'm interested in why some occupations pay higher wages than other occupations. Let me give an example. A bus driver and a pilot do relatively similar work. They transport humans. Nevertheless, we all know that pilots earn much higher wages than bus drivers. Now, probably you all think, well, that's obvious. Flying a plane is much more complicated than driving a bus. And I agree. But we propose another explanation for wage differences between occupations. Occupational closure. When you want to become a pilot, you have to go to a specialized school where access is difficult. These barriers are not there if you want to become a bus driver. In this article, we study these institutional barriers to answer our main question. Why do some occupations pay higher wages than others? Let me briefly elaborate on how occupational closure increases wages. The general argument is that institutions that generate social closure around labor market positions prevent the supply of labor in those positions from keeping up with demand, and thereby creating monopoly rents for their incumbents. If you're not able to become a plumber when there is an increasing demand for plumbers, the wages of existing plumbers will increase. In this article, we look at different closure institutions that create barriers to access. First, educational credentials. For some occupations, you are formally required to have a specific educational degree. Second, occupational licenses. As several occupations require a license to perform job tasks, for example for lawyers. And finally, unions can place barriers to access an occupation. In order to see how these four closure institutions affect wages, we've analyzed survey data for Germany and the United Kingdom. And what we find is that in both countries, much of the between-occupation wage inequality can be traced to the positive association between occupational closure and wages. Now, it's important to understand that this positive effect of occupational closure is net of the complexity of tasks that are performed in an occupation. So given the fact that a pilot does more complex things than a bus driver, we find that it pays off to work in an occupation that is difficult to get access to. Our analysis showed that credentialing and unionization have a particularly high payoff in Germany, whereas credentialing and licensure have a particularly high payoff in the UK. These results help us to understand why some occupations pay more than others.